Hey guys, it's Mark coming to you from the floor of my artist studio. Wanted to go through the next set of videos related to the creative process. We talked about kind of what I call the natural process, or the 30,000 foot view, which is just kind of the stages that a person goes through when coming up with a creative idea. This next model is by an author named Roger van Oeck, or Oeck. I apologize for not getting his name correct, but he wrote A Whack on the Side of the Head, as well as a set of cards called the Creative Whack Pack. Highly recommended if you want to deep dive into exercises and ways to think differently. But he also introduced a process or a model that is 4 essential stages that are thought of more as roles, the kind of roles that you want to take on throughout the journey of creating an idea and making something happen. So I want to go through those next. The 4 roles are basically the explorer, the artist, the judge, and the warrior. And the important thing here is to think about them as kind of mindsets or ways of thinking in the different stages of the creative process. And the really beautiful thing about this is it's kind of easier, I think, to understand. You want to be thinking in a very specific way, and you don't want to be thinking in other ways that can kind of hurt or limit your capabilities in a given point in time. And that'll become clear as I go through the roles individually. But hopefully that makes sense. You're kind of an archetype or a mindset that you want to take on to help you achieve your creativity. Each one has its own place. So the first role or mindset to really kind of get yourself into thinking about is the explorer. And what that means is really seeking out new information and being open to new ideas. Part of the process mentioned in the other model is the idea of investigating and getting as much fuel as you can for your brain to process. And so ideally you want to have new ideas and new information for your brain to process, because you already have everything you already have. So going down the same roads isn't going to give you that much information. But going down new roads, both metaphorically and literally, will help you get new ideas to be able to process through and generate. And so it's really all about being open, and even if you don't necessarily recognize it consciously, you're giving yourself an opportunity to have new ideas by being open to different things and different experiences. The second role is the artist. And this mindset to take on is really all about having fun, really all about play. I mentioned that in earlier videos way back when, that one of the biggest differences between people who are considered creative and not is the ability to play. And so this means kind of taking an idea and turning it upside down, or looking at it from a different perspective, taking all of the different ideas that you've gathered during the exploration phase or while you were the explorer. Now you're just kind of having fun with them. What new things can you think about? Can you imagine what if scenarios that that seem kind of fantastical, but they might put you in a different place, and they might attract new ideas and the idea that you've been looking for might come from something that sounds kind of out of control or crazy, but it might really just put you in the place of finding another idea that does work. And so it's really all about having as much fun as possible, suspending judgment, and really going for it. The third role is the judge. And this is where you want to not suspend judgment. This is where you want to be critical. If you had any criteria that you wanted your idea to meet, this is where you want to see if this idea meets all of that criteria. But at the same time, you want to be critical, but you want to be as constructive as possible, because there's an opportunity that even though this idea might fall short, there might be an opportunity to learn from that and take ideas forward. There might be things that did work with that idea that you want to make sure that you recognize, or maybe your criteria wasn't as important as you thought. So you want to be open as a critic to still moving forward with the idea. But that doesn't mean that every idea should go forward. So you also want to be discerning that way as well. But this is your opportunity to take a look with a critical eye and see if that idea should go forward or if you can improve upon it. The fourth role is the warrior. And just like the judge is similar to the evaluation phase of the 30,000 foot view, the warrior is the elaboration. Basically, this is where you want to take your idea. You've judged it, you know that it's the right idea you want to take forward, and now you've got to make it happen. And it's not always easy to make an idea happen. So you've got all these other phases that you've gone through, all these other roles you've gone through, and you've got this idea. But if you want to make this idea survive in the real world, you've got to be a warrior for it. You've got to be a champion for it. And this is the opportunity to take action, recognizing what steps to take, if there's any kind of strategy, help you need. This is where you want to do all of that. And you want to be as courageous as possible. You want to be as decisive as possible. And you want to be as focused as possible on making your idea come true. So those are the 4 roles. You have your explorer, your artist, your judge, and your warrior. And hopefully I was clear enough that one of the big things about that is each one of those mindsets, you want to kind of be the single point of focus for that. And you want them to be as strong as possible. Each of those, if there's a weakness in any of those, then it can weaken the overall creative process. If you don't explore new ideas, you won't have as much to draw from. If you don't play around with the ideas, then the idea won't be very original. If you don't judge it, then you might just put something out there that isn't very good or doesn't meet the criteria that's important to you. And if you don't take action, if you don't really champion it, it may never happen, or it may never get out in the real world the way that you really hoped for it to do that. So it's really important that you do all 4 of those and put as much energy and focus on each of them one at a time. I mentioned one at a time, and not only do you want to do one at a time, but you also want to do them in the right order, or at least you don't want to use the wrong mindset at the wrong time. Because, for example, if you are judging when you're trying to come up with new ideas as an artist, as when you're trying to play, if you're constantly judging yourself, you're constantly beating yourself down, it's not very fun, and your artist's just going to give up. You're just not going to try very hard. You're not going to want to do it. It's kind of not worth doing. Similarly, if you've got an idea and you've judged it, it's working, and you want to go champion it, you don't want the artist to be playing around and changing ideas on you. You don't want to constantly be changing your mind and not championing the idea that you've agreed to go forward with. So it's really important to recognize these are mindsets that you want to be able to hone and leverage at the right time, because they're really powerful at the right time and they're really destructive at the wrong time. So I hope you could see that model of the creative process, mimics the model I referenced originally, the 30,000-foot view, but rather than just it being a natural process that you go through so you can accept and understand it, this one really gives you some neat ways to take action or be actionable around. I really respected Roger van Oeck's idea of leveraging the archetypes or the mindsets or the roles to take on, because I think it's an easier way to think about it. And to help yourself, you could consider maybe giving yourself some kind of a symbol or like a pin or colored hat. They do that with some business, other exercises around trying to kind of understand where we're at in the process and the mindset we want to have. They give themselves some kind of symbol to be able to recognize, nope, we're not the judge right now, we're the artist. So they're wearing a blue hat versus a red hat or a gray hat. I don't know them. But it's really valuable to give yourself that opportunity.